come in handy if you get it figured out. And it's really not, the concepts aren't that hard, but it sometimes throws people for a loop. And what it's called is unit multipliers. Unit multipliers. The book, other places will call it conversion fractions. This thing is going crazy on me. And really what it is, it's used, it's just like it says there, it is used if you want to convert one unit of measurement to another. In other words, if you have always gotten confused, like when somebody says 57 yards is how many feet? Well, most people know there's 3 feet in a yard, so they know they do something with the 3, but they sometimes get confused, wait, am I multiplying by 3 or am I dividing by 3? Or, 5 gallons is how many quarts, or how many blah, 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 blah. If that's you, which it is me, I have to sit down and think about this, but this takes all of the guesswork out of it. You don't have to think about this because it just magically happens. It's not magic, but it just happens there. Now, first thing is we have to define what is a unit multiplier. What's a unit multiplier? That is a great question. A unit multiplier is nothing more than a fraction. It is a fraction that has equal things on top and on bottom. Equal things as the denominator, let's use some mathematical words, and the numerator. And you can think out of the box on this all you want, and we'll talk about that in a little bit here. But let's just do your generic common ones that people hear all the time. 12 inches over 1 foot. 12 inches is the same length as 1 foot. This is a unit multiplier. These two things are equal. By the way, when you put two equal things over each other, what does that fraction actually equal? 6 over 6 is 1. 12 inches over 1 foot is actually the same as 1. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Okay? I can make a unit multiplier of 12 inches equals 1 feet. I could flip that over and say 1 foot. I could say 1 foot is the same as 12 inches. You can do time. 60 seconds in 1 minute. Or the flip-flop of that. You could do eggs. 12 eggs is 1 dozen. 12 is the same as a dozen. 12 units of whatever it is would be the same as a dozen. What else could we do? Did we do time? 365 days would be over what?
1 year.
1 year. 2 points is 1 basket. Or unless it's a 3-pointer, but who knows what we're talking about. Those are all unit multipliers. Anything that you can make equal to 1 or equal to the same thing is a unit multiplier. Now you're wondering, how in the world does that help me? Well, let me have you jot down this, and I will say this a zillion times. The basic fundamental thing in unit multipliers, the most important thing in unit multipliers is you are getting, and here is the big heavy hitter, you are getting labels to cross cancel. You are getting labels to cross cancel. You will not do a unit multiplier problem without writing labels down. That would, in my mind, be the absolute worst mathematical faux pas that you could ever present. And faux pas means mistake. You've heard of a fashion faux pas? Well, this would be a huge mathematical faux pas. Got it? So here we go. Let's look at this. I just gave you the gist. I gave you nothing about how this all works. Here would be a typical unit multiplier problem. And I'll give you the whole directions, and it's the world's easiest thing that will help you the most, in science especially. You know, you're always asked to change these things. You would do this if I asked you to tell me how many kilometers are in a mile. Anybody know the answer to that? John, are you going to tell me I'm wrong again today? Not yet. Yeah. How many kilometers in a mile? Or how many miles in a kilometer? Brody, you're a runner.
It's impossible.
No, it isn't
It's impossible having a mile in a kilometer.
You kid. I can tell you what it is. And at the end of this class, I will do it using unit multipliers. I can't do it right now because I don't know what it is. I know what it's supposed to. You should be able to tell me because a 5K is close to what? How many miles?
3 miles.
3 miles. So you know it's close, but it's not exact. Sometimes you know it's exact. Same thing if I asked you, the 100-yard dash is the same thing as what's the 100-meter now. How many meters are in a yard or how many yards in a meter? Yeah, you sit there and look at me, but I can tell you using multipliers, you'll be able to buzz it out without a whole lot of trouble. Anyways, so here we go. Let's just do something easy. Let's say I am converting, let's say I'm going to use a smaller thing here. If I said to convert, let's just do something easy, 30 feet to yards. And I know most of you can probably tell me the answer. Some of you maybe can, maybe you can't. It doesn't really matter. That's material. Here is the process to which this works here. Your step number 1 is you take the given measurement, the one that you know, and you put it over 1. And you must remember you need to keep its label. Am I going to run out of space? Probably. That means this. I know I am starting with 30 feet. I take 30 feet and I put it over 1. Tell me if that confuses you. I just made a fraction out of that. Brody, do you think we can do that so far? It doesn't seem that bad, does it? Brody's happy about this. Now, you need to multiply that by the unit multiplier that has both measurements in it. And that's not all. I have to keep going here. Wait, do I have some more room? I don't think I do. That will make the label cross cancel. Should have thought of that. That will make the label cross cancel. A lot of words for something that is going to be incredibly easy. You do have to have some small prior knowledge. You do need to know how many feet are in a yard or yards in a feet. That's why you have your reference material and common knowledge. Hopefully you already know that. If not, you can look back to whatever your thing is. But here's the gist. I am going to multiply this by my unit multiplier. And the unit multiplier that I have to use is the unit multiplier that has both of these measurements in it. I need my conversion between feet and yards and feet. And here's the deal. Here is the deal. I am trying to get rid of feet because I want my answer to be in yards. So in that whole world of cross-canceling, in order to get something on top to cross off, it has to cross off with something on bottom. So if feet are on top here, feet must go on the bottom because that will make the label cross off. And the thing I'm trying to turn it into has to go on top. And here's where your knowledge has to come in. Do you know how many yards are in a feet or how many feet are in a yard? What is it? There are 3 feet in 1 yard. This is my unit multiplier. It equals 1. I am not changing my 30 feet. I am not changing that distance. It's still 30 feet. It's still the distance from this wall to that wall, actually. I'm just changing the unit that I'm measuring it in. So what happens here? my labels cross off, I don't have any feet left over, I end up with 30 divided by 3, which is 10, and this is the label that's left, it's 10 yards. All right, 30 feet is equal to 10 yards. And again, you probably knew that, but I gave you one that's easy, so it's kind of something that's not, you know, there are not always those sort of things that are as easy to do. You know. Here's another, for example, and the book will tell you this. Let's say that you know, here we go, I'll give you this. There are 2.54 centimeters, that equals 1 inch. There are 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch. Okay, that's not asking you any question. If I asked you, if I said 10 inches equals how many centimeters? Okay, and again, you may be able to give me the answer, maybe you don't, it doesn't matter to me. Okay. How do I do that? Running through the steps, what do? The first thing I do is take this and I do what with it? I make it a fraction by putting it over 1. It's what I know. I know what I know, what I know, I put it over 1, I make a fraction of it. Okay? I multiply that by the unit multiplier, which is this. But how do I know what goes where? Daffenberg?
You need to be able to cross cancel, so the inches would go on the bottom.
Whatever's up here must go on the bottom, because I need those labels to cross off. If inches go on bottom, then centimeters go on top. And then I just fill in the blank. I know there are 2.54 centimeters in an inch. My labels cross off, and in this case here, I multiply 10 times 2.54, which you should be able to do mentally because it's multiplying a decimal by 10. Garrett, what is 2.54 times 10?
2.54.
No, that is an incorrect statement. 2.54 and 2.540 are the exact same thing. This times this is
25.1.
Move the decimal one place. It is 25.4 centimeters. Now let's flip that over. What if I asked you 10 centimeters equals how many inches? Ooh, let's get really daring on that. This is something to write home about. Doing the same thing, I take 10 centimeters and I put it over 1. What is the conversion fraction / unit multiplier going to look like over here? What has to go on the bottom now? Brayden?
Centimeters.
What goes on top?
Inch.
There are still 10 centimeters in, I'm sorry, there's still 2.54 centimeters in an inch. This one's going to get a little more ugly because the answer to this is, centimeters cross off, whatever 10 divided by 2.54 is, which I guess I'd have to do, how many times is 2.54 go into 10? Dude, nobody likes that. Right? I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter. Is it 0.0 something? How many what? 10 centimeters. Wait, something doesn't seem right about that, does it?
John?
Don't you
John, help me out
Don't
here.
you have to move the decimal from 2.54 to make it a...
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it. Thank you, God. You know, that's just one of those things I couldn't see the forest between the trees. So this would be like 3. You'd get 3 because it's not 4. 4 would be exactly 1,000, so it's 3 point something. Thank you for saving me on that counter, because otherwise I was going to stand up here and just stare at that for literally ever. Now, let's go to, well, let's go to something that isn't quite as concrete. I'm going to go up here to a problem we did here. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, boy. Might take me a while. Let's say you were stranded on Yon Fair Desert Island. Is this us? Was that us? Was that us? Was that us? Was that us? Let's say you got stuck on some island out in the Pacific, and you had to deal with the natives there. And the natives there didn't have any money. Their only currency was fruit. And you had to buy things in fruit. And here's what they say. An apple is worth 5 bananas because bananas are all over the place, and apples, add bananas. 4 bananas equals 3 oranges, and 5 oranges equals 6 pears, and 1 pear equals 18 grapes. And, you're trying to buy a pair of sandals for the beach. What do sandals look like? Got little slits here. I'll make it 3-dimensional so you can see it. And these sandals cost, let's say they cost, I don't know. Let's say they cost, let's say they cost 15 oranges. But all you have are bananas. So you got to change 15 oranges equals how many bananas? B-A-N-A-N-A-S. Go. You have at it. Okay? And you might be able to tell me 15 oranges is how many bananas. I don't care. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to think about it because I'm going to use the multipliers. Using the same rule. What's my first step is to do what, Baumgartner? Take what I do know, put it over 1. So that's going to be what? What do I know? I know 15 oranges. I put that over 1. I need to multiply that by the unit multiplier that has both oranges and bananas in it, which is right here. What has to go where? I probably should make that O looks like a 0, doesn't it? How do you make an O look like an O? I'll just go OR. What do I have to know from there? Where do oranges go over here? They have to go on the bottom, right? What goes on top? Bananas. How many oranges equal banana? 4 bananas are 3 oranges. My labels cross off, so now I'm left with bananas. And you can cross cancel, by the way. I could take 15 times 4 and get 60 and divide it by 3, which is 20. Or I could cross 3 into 15 and get 5. 5 times 4. It would cost me 20 bananas for that. And again, maybe you did that, maybe you didn't. But you don't have to think about it this way. That's the beauty of it. Dazed and confused. Now, something else you have to understand. Sometimes you don't have the conversion fraction. For example, look at this one. If I want to convert apples into oranges, is there an apple into oranges conversion up there? By the way, who wants to speculate? 4 apples is how many oranges? John?
So if
I don't want the explanation, just tell me how many. Just give me something. Give me something to go on.
15 oranges.
Taking 15. You probably are right, but I don't know. How many of you got 15? Let's get 15. Now you're just raising your hand because John did. I don't want to hear it. Here's the deal, okay? Sometimes you can't go from apples to oranges, but you can take this in steps. If I know a common thing, like both of these have bananas in them, I can change apples to bananas, and then once I figure out what bananas are, I can go to oranges. So, I can tell you're mesmerized by that. Let's look at what that would look like. Sorry. Here we go. So here's the deal. I still take my given. What do I know? I know that I have 4 apples to start with. I don't have an apples to oranges, so I go from apples to bananas. And I can write this down because I know what I want. What has to go down here? Apples. What has to go up here? Bananas. What is my apples to banana thing up here? 1 apple, 5 bananas. So 1 apple, 5 bananas. I have now changed this into bananas. Now, I don't even have to multiply this yet. I can change my bananas into oranges, because that's what I want. And I look for my bananas to oranges things. 4 bananas is 3 oranges. Bananas cross off. I'm left with oranges. That's the label that's left, and you can see why those are important. Okay. I can multiply 4 times 5, which is 20, times 3, which is 60, divided by 4, which is 15. Or you could have done this. Oh, look, I have a 4 on top and a 4 on bottom. So I end up with 5 times 3, 15 oranges. Nice job, Gaffenberg. Should we test them on one more? 10 bananas is how many pairs? Oh, I guess I erased it there. Let's do one more. John, 10 bananas is how many pairs? Quick, come on. Hurry! Hurry! Give it to me.
It's more than 6. That's all I can figure out.
All right, we're gonna go with more than 6. Let's see what happens. Let's watch how quickly you can do this. Look how quickly you can do this using unit multipliers. What am I gonna do? I need to go to get from bananas to pears. It looks like it goes from bananas to oranges, and then I can go from oranges to pears, right? So I need to go from bananas to oranges, and then from oranges I can go to pears. So I'm gonna need two conversion things. So my first thing is bananas to oranges. And what is my bananas to oranges thing? 4 bananas, 3 oranges. Now I've just turned it into oranges, and then I need to change oranges into pears. How many? 5 oranges is 6 pears. So 5 goes here, 6 goes there. I have now turned this into pears. I just need to do the math. Maybe it doesn't work out evenly. I don't know. Maybe it does. What can I cross cancel? I could take this 5 and cross it off of this 10. This would become a 2. I could cross cancel. Well, let's just do it the way it is. 6 times 3 is 18. Times 3 is 36. And 36 divided by 4 is, I know that's hard for you, 9. Even the great John Daffenberg could not come up with it right off the bat.
Yeah, I realize how I can do it mentally right now.
Yeah, I know.
But it took me to do it physically.
Do you see how
You just have a 4.
Now, for Brody Greer, I am going to do his, this is a long one, by the way. I'm going to do this. Brody, should I see, do you want me to figure out how many miles there are in a kilometer, or how many kilometers are in a mile?
How many kilometers?
Okay, so this is what Brody is asking me. All right? I want to know how many, I want to know 1 mile equals how many kilometers. That's what I want to know, right? Is that what we're saying? You want to know how many kilometers make up a mile? Or do you want to know how many miles are in a kilometer? Well, if you want miles and kilometers, it's going to be less than 1 because a kilometer is smaller than a mile.
Sure, it's 2 miles.
It doesn't matter. Either way we can do it. So, here's the problem with this. Is somewhere we got to figure out how to change the metric system into the American system, or whatever system, which I already gave you, which was what? What was the one thing that went from metric to, I gave you one already. Yeah, what is it? The one thing you need to know is that there are 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch. With that little fact and everything else that you know, we can do this. So the question is, how do I go from miles to kilometers? Well, I'm going to have to go from miles. I need to go from miles and get to inches so I can get to centimeters. So how do I get from miles to inches? I have to go from miles to feet. And then I would change feet into inches. And then I can make the leap, because now I know this. I can go from inches to centimeters. And now how do I go from centimeters to kilometers? Maybe you do or don't know this. You have to go from centimeters to meters. How many centimeters are in a meter? No, there's 100. Cent, 100. And then how do I go, I'm sorry. And then I need to go from how many meters are in a kilometer. Eat that now at the time for your 1,000. Got that? So there, in order for me to do this handy dandy little thing, I have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 big, long, ugly conversions. But there's no thinking involved with this because you know the fundamentals of this. Watch. Alright, so I'm starting, the thing I know is 1 mile. 1 mile. I put it over 1. I'm going to convert a mile into feet. Where does mile have to go? Bottom. What has to go on top? Feet. And hopefully you know how many feet are in a mile, which is
5,200.
5,200. If you don't, you have to look that up. There's no easy way around that. So now I've just turned this into feet. Now I have to go from feet to inches, which means where do feet have to go to get it to cross off? On the bottom. What goes on top? Inches. How many inches are in a foot? Hopefully you know that. Anybody? Well, I have now changed this into inches. Now I need to go from inches to centimeters. So what goes on the bottom? Inches. What goes on top?
Centimeters.
Centimeters. And I know there are 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch. Now I've changed this whole thing into centimeters. I need to change centimeters into meters. Where do centimeters have to go? On the bottom. How many centimeters make up a meter? 100. So that has to go with centimeters. And then, now I need just to change meters into kilometers. And there are 1,000 of those bad boys in a kilometer. Brady is so anxiously anticipating this mathematical procedure here. What is going to give me the answer then? I need to multiply 5,280 times 12 times 2.54, and then all has to be divided by 100 times 1,000. Those of you that just walked in, life will not be this hard. I just wanted to prove to Brody that I could do this. Is there an easy way to do this?
Yes.
Yes, calculator. Does it say it in the book?
Yeah, 1.6.
Well, let's see if we get the 1.6 that Ethan's talking about. Ready? Can't always trust it. Where in the world is the calculator? Here we go. So I'm going to multiply the top together. 5,280 times 12 times 2.54. And that gives me, oh look, what's that? 160934. 160934. Where was the decimal? Was the decimal there?
4.
Was it?
I thought it was 0.6.
Was it before the 4? Was it 0.6?
4. I thought it was 4.
Wait, where'd the calculator thing go?
Why you started writing it down here?
It should be one of these things down here. There it is. One 1,60934.4. Now the beauty of this is if I'm dividing by these, since it's tens, hundreds, thousands, I'm just moving the decimal. How many zeros are on the bottom? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I just moved the decimal 5 places back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Ethan, I hate to prove you wrong, but 1 mile actually equals 1.609344 kilometers. But they just rounded it to that. Do you ever need to know that? Actually, now that you know that, which Ethan, we do round that, now you've got actually your new conversion fraction that you could always use. You know that 1 mile equals 1.6 kilometers. To which Brody told me that a 5K race is how far? About?
30 miles.
Let's do that. If 1 mile equals that, 5K equals how many miles? Well, what do? I take my given, I put it over 1. I need to multiply it by the conversion fraction that has K on the bottom and M on top. I know that there is 1.6 Ks in 1 mile. And we hope for my sake that if I divide 1.6 into 5, I get somewhere around 3. Let's check and see. What did I say? 5 divided by 1.6. Drum roll, please. Wait, what happened there? Wait, did I put times?
No, you
They
put
did.
you divided.
You sure I did divide it?
Yeah.
Calculator.
Wait, you can't tell this. Divided by is this one? I don't think I did. 1.6. Second drum roll. I think I put 2 as times. There! Technically, Brody, you should say the real answer is 3 1/8. Almost exactly. 3 1/8 miles. That was kind of exciting, wasn't it?
Kind of.
Very.
I have to stop there because I'm just running.